You're ready to go, Pete.
Mike's
Okay, we're ready?
muted.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. And the first order of business, rather than saying the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to take a few minutes of silence for the victims of the COVID-19. Okay, thank you. First order, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda. This is Gary.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved by Gary to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
Yeah. Lisa.
Okay, it's moved by Gary, seconded by Lisa. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Pete, we need to unmute Mike's Mike. He's muted. Can you hear us, Mike? Okay.
Okay, so we're having a few technical difficulties here.
Yes, I can. It's like,
There we go.
Okay, you can hear now, Mike?
yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, the first item on the agenda is we've got some proclamations to read. I'm going to read the National Service Recognition Day. Hopefully in the process, maybe we'll get all this technology fixed up. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Don't you have
Yes.
National Library Week?
National Service Recognition Day. We're not going to do the library because since the library is closed.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to read this, and there's obviously some feedback here, but we'll give it a shot. National Service Recognition Day. Whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges, and whereas the nation's cities are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet their needs, whereas the AmeriCorps and Senior Corps members address the most pressing challenges facing our communities, from educating students for the jobs of the 21st century, to fighting the opioid epidemic, to responding to natural disasters, to supporting veterans and military families. And whereas AmeriCorps and Senior Corps participants serve in more than 45,000 locations over the country, bolstering the civic neighborhood and faith-based organizations that are so vital to our economic and social well-being. And whereas national service represents a unique public-private partnership that invests in community solutions and leverages non-federal resources to strengthen community impact and increase the return on taxpayer dollars. And whereas the national service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with local leaders nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with the National League of Cities, the National Association of Counties, and local leaders across the country, for National Service Recognition Day on April 7th. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Pete Rust, Mayor of the City of Green River, do hereby proclaim April 7th, 2020 as National Service Recognition Day, and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our city, and to thank those who serve and to find ways to give back to their communities. Second proclamation here is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, where the City of Green River recognizes the importance of designating a time devoted to increasing the general public's awareness of sexual assault and support of agencies providing services to victims of sexual assault. Whereas volunteers and service providers in our community are working to provide a continuum of care and services to sexual assault survivors through 24-hour hotlines, counseling, support groups, advocacy, medical care, and education. And whereas the YWCA Center for Families and Children promotes sexual assault prevention by offering educational presentations to schools, churches, and civic organizations, as well as professional training and collaboration with the medical, mental health, law enforcement, educators, and criminal justice personnel regarding sexual assault issues. And whereas the YWCA Center for Families and Children requests public support and assistance as we hold forth a vision of a community free from sexual violence. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Pete Rust, Mayor, do hereby declare the month of April 2020 to be Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the city of Green River, Wyoming. And I commend the observance of all citizens by urging each to learn what can be done to combat sexual violence and offer prevention measures and support and service to survivors. There's a note here that Run with the Badges will be a virtual event this year, obviously due to the COVID situation. Participants can sign up, contact the YWCA. The YWCA is encouraging participants to run on their own, 5K or 10K, on their own time while practicing social distancing. Participants may run any day from April 16th through the end of April and post their pictures and times on our Facebook event page. Okay, you guys all hear that okay?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, item 6, resolutions. Consideration of a resolution approving amendment number 2 to the purchase and development agreement with New Peak Construction Company, LLC, regarding the sale of tracks B and C of the Lincoln School Edition. I'm assuming Mark Westenscott might be addressing this issue.
So,
Pete, I want to abstain from that. This is Gary.
Okay,
I'll abstain.
okay, Gary. Okay, that's noted. We'll see if Mark's going to speak on this. I'll give him a second. If not, I can present the information that's provided here.
good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Perfect, thank you. What we have tonight is, you remember a couple of years ago, it was actually pretty close to 2 years ago, New Peak Construction bid on the purchase of tracks B and C with the intention of the Lincoln School tract, with the intention of developing that into the second phase of the subdivision that they've been working on over there. And they've run into, every project runs into some hiccups and some delays, and this one's no different. So last year, you granted an extension of 1 year for that development plan to be submitted. And we've been continuing to work with New Peak over the last year, and it just so happens we need to request, or they need to request another extension to be able to continue to work on that.
okay, thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, this is Jim.
Yes, Jim.
I move to approve the resolution granting and authorizing the execution of amendment number 2 to the purchase and development agreement with New Peak Construction Company, LLC, to allow for a 1-year extension to receive subdivision final plat approval expiring April 17th, 2021, which is 36 months of entering into the original purchase and development agreement.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Zimmerman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Zimmerman, seconded by Councilman Berg. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. I believe that it's approved with Councilman Kilpack abstaining. Everyone else voted yes. Consideration of a resolution, item B, consideration of a resolution accepting the Wyoming State Forestry Grant Funds. I'm assuming Brad will be addressing this issue.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brad Rainey, Parks and Recreation Director. I came to you guys a few weeks ago, seems like a lifetime ago now, for seeking permission to apply for this grant. This grant will allow us to put in an irrigation system and plant some trees on East Teton near the horse corrals. And this is just to sign the grant agreement and accept the funds.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Does anybody have any questions of Brad? Okay, hearing none, I'll accept the motion.
Mayor, this is Gary.
Councilman Kilpack.
I move to approve the resolution increasing the general fund in the Parks and Recreation Department for the planting of trees along East Teton Boulevard in the amount of $6,235.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Kilpack, seconded by Councilwoman Mays. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, item C. Consideration of a resolution to accept the Sweetwater County School District Number 2 Rec Mill grant funds for the Edgewater Park improvements. Brad, you're up on this one too?
Okay, I'll unmute myself. This is similar to the last one we just did. I think it was the same meeting, came to you asking permission to apply for this grant, and we were successful in obtaining the grant. This is to replace the playground at Edgewater Park, paint some pickleball lines on the tennis courts, and acquire a little bit of equipment to allow the public to enjoy that game. None of the money goes to the playground replacement. Just a note on both the projects. Back when we applied, we were eager to hurry up and get to these. Probably won't get to them right away with playgrounds closed right now and trying to keep people apart, but we received the grants and we'll get to them. So there'll be exciting improvements.
Good. Thank you, Brad. Okay, anybody have any questions of Brad? Okay, we'll entertain a motion then.
Mayor? 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 I'll make a
Yes.
motion. Okay, I move to approve the
Okay,
resolution.
Lisa.
Okay, sorry. I move to approve the resolution increasing the general fund for the Parks Maintenance Program 640 PGPMTC in the amount of $50,000.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilwoman Mays and seconded by Councilman Murphy. Is there any further discussion? Was that you, Tom, that seconded it?
I think that was me.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Byrd. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously, and we certainly want to thank Brad and his staff, $56,000 for those two projects and grants. Item 7, council action items. Item A, consideration to award the concession stand proposals for Stratton Myers and Veterans Park. I'm assuming Brad's going to speak to this one also.
Just getting my mic unmuted. Yeah, I can speak to this. We do this every year. We put the concession stands out to bid. It's advertised in the paper. And this is just to award that bid to that person. Once again, this is something that's maybe up in the air, but we'll go ahead like there's going to be hopefully somewhat of a baseball season where she can do it. But either way, this person put the bid in, and this is to accept that bid.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Well, pretty straightforward. Anybody have any questions? Okay, let's have a motion then.
Mayor, Councilman
Yes.
Berg,
Okay,
I move to approve the agreements with Renee Johnson to operate the concession stands at Stratton Myers and Veterans Park for the 2020 season.
Second,
okay. Who was that? Gary?
Kilpack.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Berg, seconded by Councilman Kilpack. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Item B, consideration to approve the grant agreement with the Wyoming Forestry Service. This is what we just talked about, I believe, maybe not. Brad? This is different.
Okay, I'm here. Sorry, I have to wait for my mic to be unmuted. This is what we just talked about. One was making this for the forestry grant. One was making the resolution so that we can spend the money. And then this is for the mayor agreement with Wyoming State Forestry that's associated with that grant, but it's the same thing. It's just another piece of paperwork.
Okay. Everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion then.
Mayor. this is
Councilman
Gary.
Kilpack.
I move to authorize the mayor to sign the 2020 Community Forestry Grant Agreement with the Wyoming State Forestry Division in the amount of $4,500 pending legal approval.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Lisa.
Okay, moved by Councilman Kilpack, seconded by Councilwoman Mays. Any further discussion? Seeing
Mayor.
none, all in favor, say aye.
Wait, Robert
Yes.
had a question.
Go ahead, Councilman Burke.
I just wanted to
Okay.
remind
Go ahead,
council.
Councilman Burke.
I just wanted to remind council that we have discussed having a workshop in the future to discuss some of the gray areas as far as right of way with trees and such like that.
Okay. Good point. Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous. Item C, consideration to approve the contract documents with Griner Ford of Casper. Who might be addressing this?
Very careful, Chris Weeds. We purchased and awarded some bids for some trucks a number of weeks ago. September, a number of months ago. They've asked for some additional documents to be signed on the delivery of those trucks, and those be those two documents.
Okay. I think this is pretty straightforward also. I entertain a motion.
Mayor, this is Gary.
Councilman Kilpack.
I move to approve and have the mayor sign the we owe and the acknowledgement of as is sales with Griner Ford and of Casper, Wyoming.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second from Jim.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Consideration, item D, consideration to approve the grant award agreement with the Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation. There's Chief Jarvie.
Mayor and Council, this is the grant that we receive every year to fund our position with the task force and over in Rock Springs DCI office. On top of covering his salary and most of the fringe benefits, having somebody over in that office helps if we have seizures from any drug investigations. DCI ends up, because we participate with them, does all the seizure paperwork, all the court part of that. So on top of the benefit of having the grant itself, it also has other benefits that come throughout the year as well.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Does anybody have any questions of the chief? As he said, this is one that we do every year. Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Councilwoman Mays.
I move to approve the 2020 HIDTA subcontract grant award from DCI in the amount of $91,682 and authorize Mayor Rust and Chief Jarvie to sign the agreement.
Second. Councilman Burke.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Berg. I can actually see when you guys speak, your names, you know, it lights up in the box, so I'm okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item E, consideration to award the 2020 North Third West Water Improvement Project. Assuming Mark will be talking to us on this one again.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mark Westmisco, Public Works Director. Several weeks ago, we received bids for the installation of a water line on North Third West in the vicinity of the Super 8, where it crosses Flaming Gorge Way. This is a project intended to improve fire flow in that area and make connectivity just for that portion of town, improve our resiliency and redundancy. We did receive 2 bids for that. The 2 bids that we received were both compliant as far as being conforming with the bid requirements. But we did see a difference in them that made us go back and take a look, and we think that there's an element of the work that we may be able to explain better in a future date and be able to perform a little bit differently. So we've pulled that element out of the work and proposed that the most of the work be done under this contract. So the low bidder would have been Jackman Construction.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Does anybody have any questions of Mark on this project?
I do, Mayor.
Yes,
I guess I've been
go
on
ahead,
council.
Lisa.
I've been on council for a long time. And I can remember another water project that we awarded to this company. And at that time, all the council said, it just seems to me whenever Jackman turns in a bid, what usually happens is we end up getting change orders for more money and we get delays in projects. So I have a real concern about the contractor, even though he's lower. We've run into problems before where he's not getting things done on time. And if you're crossing Flaming Gorge Way, that could be a problem. And then he comes back with change orders, a lot. And I just remember that other project. It was really a mess. That's my concern.
Mayor, Council, We've had some projects here recently where Jackman's been on the job. As far as the work being done, has been reasonably satisfactory. The work that's proposed here would not actually be crossing Flaming Gorge Way. It would be building on either side of Flaming
Oh.
Gorge Way, tying
Okay.
into the line in Flaming Gorge Way, and then just taking it up the half block that goes either way down to, or up to the alley and then down to Railroad. We have had some smaller successful jobs with Jackman recently, and we work through projects with all kinds of contractors. So
Okay.
Mayor, this is Gary. I would like to
Yes.
ask Galen, I'd like to ask Galen a question if I can, if he can hear me. Galen?
Yes,
Can a
sir.
motion be made where we add to the end of it with no change orders?
Good evening, council. Your Honor, members of council, Councilman Kilpack, that really wouldn't be feasible. I mean, sometimes we end up with deductive change orders. Sometimes we end up with additive change orders. And it's all a matter of individual circumstances as to whether or not a proposed change order is appropriate. And any change order would have to come before the council in any event. But I don't think it's going to be legally feasible to specify no change orders because it's subject to future circumstances that may as well yet be unknown.
Thank you, Galen.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, we'll entertain a motion. I know it's kind of difficult when nobody knows if somebody's going to speak before them, but we need to have a motion here. Can you guys all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
It can die because of lack of motion.
Yeah, it sure can. Okay, I'm gonna ask one more time then. Do we have a motion?
Mayor and council, let me entertain. You still have an outstanding bid and you still have to act on the bid, either to reject the bid or to award the bid. Until then, it's still considered an outstanding bid. It may die for lack of motion, but we have to keep bringing it forward to you until you either reject the bid or of course.
So what are you suggesting, Chris? Do we move on? Do we vote no? Do we vote yes? Do we vote?
I think Tom's asking for his mic to be unmuted.
Okay,
So Tom, before I can unmute you, I have to get rid of one of your instances, otherwise it provides so much feedback we can't hear anything.
there you go.
Okay, you're unmuted.
Okay, I make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mayor and council, motion for what?
I move to award the 2020 North Third West Water Improvement Project to Jackman Construction Incorporated in the amount of $170,395.50 per the revised bid, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with the amendments.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit there. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Okay, the motion dies for lack of a second. Is that correct? Procedurally, Galen?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on, item F, consideration of award of material testing contract for the North Third West Water Improvements Project.
Mayor, Council, this is Mark Westmisco again. So this one is a tag along to the other. So when that project is built, we will need to have materials testing done. We received proposals for the materials testing for that North Third West Water Project. And the recommended award for that would be to William H. Smith and Associates. Given that the other didn't go at this point, I guess it'd be up to you as to whether you want to table this and wait, or if you want to push forward with it.
Okay. Since we don't have a contractor doing the job, I would suggest we table the issue, but that's up to you guys.
I agree, Mayor.
I agree.
Mayor, this is Councilman Kilpack.
Yes.
I make a motion that we table.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Kilpack and seconded by Councilman Burke to table the motion of awarding materials testing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Item G, consideration of a professional services agreement with Wood Environmental and Infrastructure Solutions Incorporated for the Storm System Master Plan and Modeling Project.
Still at the virtual podium, if you will. So the one of the line items in our 2020 budget was to perform a modeling master plan and modeling study for the city's stormwater system that would help us identify potential capital improvement projects to be pursued on the stormwater side. We had quite an extensive response to this request for proposal. Very qualified firms, a lot of firms, very qualified, very difficult decision. And our recommendation is to award the master plan and modeling study to Wood Environmental and Infrastructure. They specialize in this kind of work, and we were very impressed with their proposal.
Mayor,
Okay, thank you. Yeah, who was
this is
that?
Councilman Kilpack.
Go ahead, Councilman Kilpack.
I've got a concern and a question for Mark. In light of the issues that have taken place at this time with the COVID-19 and the way everything is moving, it appears that we could, in the next month or two, start to see some real declines in our revenue. And due to that fact, would it be a problem, or if we could go ahead and table this and re-look at this in a couple months, depending on how the budget's going to end up? Because if we move into the next year, right now we're really having a difficult time even planning a budget for next year because of the circumstances. And 148,000 is a lot of money that we might have to have going into this next budget year. That's a concern of mine.
So certainly the council has its prerogatives. I may defer. I don't know if Galen has anything more to say about that, but at this point, we've gone through our process, and council certainly has their prerogatives.
Mayor,
Yeah,
Yes.
Councilman Mays.
is this coming out of the water fund, which is an enterprise fund? Do you have the money already saved up in your enterprise fund?
This is actually coming out of, it would be general fund monies. It would be those monies that have been collected by the stormwater fee that has been on for the last few years.
Okay,
So we do have the money there then, Mark?
It is budgeted for this year. It's not in a separate enterprise fund per se, but it has been we've been collecting it by that stormwater fee. I don't know if Chris would want to say more about the actual funding, which pot things are held in.
Okay, next question, I guess, would be, is it worthwhile to hold off, or would we be better off trying to push it through now?
Well, certainly, I mean, I can appreciate council's concerns about the funding, especially given recent events. This is a process that we started several weeks ago. In fact, I have to go back and look at the documents, but we started this right near the first of the year, before the current COVID circumstances have manifested themselves. So it's certainly something we've been working on for a while, and the current state of the pandemic is something that was not foreseen when we were initiated that project. We're just continuing on in the path that we'd set forward. And again, at this point, we think this is valuable information to be had, allow us to plan for future projects. You know, there's some schools of thought might say that having something like this in our back pocket when and if any stimulus monies were to come would allow us to be able to act on some of those projects that would come out of this. But again, it's the future's hard to see for us right now.
Again, this is Councilman Kelpak. My concern again is this is just a study. And I just see it based on the situation and the discussions that I've been in the last couple of weeks in regards to finances and budgeting. I just don't know if this would be prudent for me. I'm just talking for me at this time. So.
The question I have, Mark, would this be putting us behind the 8 ball more if we don't go on to it now, or would be okay if we wait a couple months like Gary would like?
One of the things on the timing on this one is the weather, just because there's a significant survey element to it, in allowing the contractor to get out and collect the data when the weather is good. The data collection would be a survey crew doing canvassing the city and checking all of our stormwater infrastructure. If that is a local crew that would be doing that, but not from out of state. The consultant, their offices are out of state, but they were planning to use a local surveyor for that element. But again, some minor delay wouldn't necessarily disrupt the project too terribly much.
This is Councilman
Mayor.
Kelpak again. Can I ask Chris a question? What was our tax revenue this month and last month? I think it's been down, hasn't it?
This month's tax revenue was 668,000. Last month's was around 900,000. I don't have the exact number in front of me. But yeah.
So this month then we're a couple 100,000 down from what we budgeted last year for our monthly budget then.
What we budgeted, yes. From last year at this same time was around $1 million. In 16 and 17, though, we're actually above the 2016 and 17 numbers, or 2017 and 18 numbers. So it depends on how you want to look at it. Was last year an anomaly, and for the previous 2 years we're on that. I'm going to kind of wait and see. Overall, the fourth quarter spending for the whole state or Sweetwater County, so that was as of December, was down 7.5%, according to the state economists. So it would have trended that we would have been down anyways, just from the overall state of the economy before the COVID-19 stuff. But there was a very good possibility that our numbers are going to be a bit lower for the next month or two. It is when we collect the March sales tax, we won't see that sales tax until May 1st, June 1st. and we won't see the April sales tax until July 1st. So I mean, we're going to be a couple months out.
But this money's not coming from the sales tax, is it? It's coming from our water bills where we put the extra $3 or $4 a month in for the waste, or for the one we did a couple years ago.
It still comes out of the general fund pot. That money is earmarked for storm sewer. Sorry, I couldn't pronounce that tonight. But you got to look at, we annually spend more on storm sewer just in our general maintenance than we do for that. The money goes towards storm system maintenance. It is not specifically earmarked for projects or something like that on its.
Okay, any other comments? You know, the only concern that I would have, you know, based on what Mark says, is I know that there is a lot of federal money, hopefully coming to us soon. Hopefully the state will put in some money too out of the rainy day account that will provide money for projects. And until we know that, obviously, that's an issue. But also, I think Mark's point that the more projects that you have ready, the greater your chance for getting funding for those projects. So obviously, if you delay a project, it's going to cost more, not less, generally speaking. But on the other hand, $150,000, as Councilman Kilpack brings up, is a chunk of money that we may
Mayor?
not be hurt much by delaying for a couple months and seeing
Mayor,
where we're at.
Mayor, this is Councilman Kilpack.
Yes, Councilman Kilpack.
I would like to make a motion to delay this project for a couple months because I would hate to see us vote it down and kill the project. So I would make a motion that we delay it for a couple months and watch our revenue and then act upon it then.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if I may ask Mark a question, how long the bid quote's good for?
You know, I would have to, I don't know that I've got that one with me. That might be on my desk. Generally, we have things in there about 60 days, but I'm just spitballing there.
Yeah, that's our pretty typical RFP and bid response, 60 day response time. So if it's not awarded within that 60 days, they would have to go back out. Or at least the contractor, if every single contractor would be willing to honor the exact same bid.
Okay, so I think, which was a little bit unclear. I don't know if you guys can hear me better than you can hear Chris, but I didn't hear him real well. But the bottom line was, it seems like we have a 60-day window that we could act within, potentially, if we can act before that, approximately, where we might not have to rebid it. Anyway, we're not sure of that, but that's a possibility. We have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, I believe the motion is unanimous. Okay. I'm not sure what's going on. Somebody must have the mic on there. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Okay, do we have a second? It's been moved by Councilwoman Mays, seconded by Councilman Berg, that we approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Who opposed approving the consent agenda? Nobody? Okay, I'm sorry, I heard it wrong. All right, City Administrator's report, Mr. Clevenger.
Thank you, Mayor Council. I do want to go back and address the Jackman bid or that for that project. You guys, if we need to either, as it stands, in order to bring it back, we need to either reject that bid or reject that in terms of that project and then have it rebid. But we'd have to, I don't know that we can make enough changes. You know, in terms of, we'll have to say why, you know, what are the major changes that have to make that happen. Also, looking at that project or any other projects that are going to be done or bid that way, he was a low bidder. So I'd like to have Galen step in and discuss this procedurally, what we need to do.
Well, I mean, the council can elect not to do a project and they can reject a bid that's been made. Where you get into bigger issues are if you then rebid the project, you know, what's the basis for, you know, for the rejection. So the council, if they're going to proceed with the project, has to award it to the lowest responsible bidder. And if the council chooses to have some reason they want it rebid for matters that pertain to the project, they can do so. But the general proposition, what the statutes provide is for competitive bidding and awarding the bid to the lowest responsible bidder.
My question then to Galen, this is Gary. Because of the issues we've had in the past, is he a responsible bidder?
Well, Mayor and members of the council, Councilman Kilpack, we just heard Public Works Director Mark Westensko indicate that they have had projects in the recent past, multiple projects in recent past where the work has been done satisfactorily and with on a satisfactory time frame. And so that certainly suggests responsibility. There's also some Wyoming case law that says if a contractor is able to secure proper bonding for a project, that in and of itself, you know, suggests financial responsibility. And I happen to know with this particular project, that the project was amended, the bid was made, and then the bid was, the scope of work was modified out of concern that city staff had about, you know, the performance of one particular part of the project. And so they removed that from the project and have a concept how they can bring it back and tie it in with some other work at a later time.
I also think if that's the direction that we're looking, I mean, if you use the direction regarding the stormwater master plan being with the use of funds, you know, through the COVID uncertainty that we have, maybe relooking at that project with some other stuff that should be taken out, that would make more sense. That might be a place to rebid. Uncertainty could also give that to you. I just feel that, but we need to move in a direction that is going to be keep us under statutorial guideline and then or statutorial aspect of what we need to get done here. So,
Mayor, I have a comment. The reason that I wasn't keen on, you know, opening this up was just the difference in the two bid prices. You know, when you're talking the original bidding, one of them was almost $400,000 and the lower bid came in at $229,000. There's a big difference in that. And so I felt uncomfortable not having the knowledge on why those bids were so different. And then even when it was rebid with some of the stuff being taken out of it, we're still talking $223,000 to $170,000. So that's still another $53,000 difference in two different bids. So that was my concern.
Well, and I guess I have a question too. So what are the projects that Jackman has done in the last 2 years? I don't remember, and maybe I'm, you know, not remembering, but what were the other projects that he did?
Mayor, Council, this is Mark Westonskill, the Public Works Director again. So in the last couple of years, I know last year he did it was a relatively small job down on Railroad Avenue, where he removed a couple of fire hydrant and added a cap that went relatively smoothly. Other projects that they've worked on in town recently has been as a subcontractor. He was a subcontractor on the Second South work a few years ago. And there's another one that I think is escaping me, but I do know that those projects, the most recent one was a relatively small job, but it did go relatively smoothly.
Oh, okay. Well, the only thing is sometimes, and I found in the past is Jackman will take on too many projects. If they get a big project and they get 2 other projects that are big, sometimes things get left behind or they don't get taken care of. That was my experience with them.
So, and to address the question of Councilman Berg, you know, we saw the same thing with the differences in the bids, and we went, and whenever we get bids, we examine those bids to see if we've missed something. If we missed something, if the contractors missed something, why is there a difference here? On this particular one, there was an element of work that we identified that, you know, maybe we didn't make it as clear as we needed to. There was one element of work that had to do with the alley that was that's where the bulk of the differences came from, and we removed that, as Galen said. You know, council has their prerogatives. We're trying to move projects forward. If you have concerns relative to expenditure of funds at this point in time, if you have concerns about, you know, wanting to, like I said, this one we did have a modification in the scope of the work. If you would prefer to have us go and redraw that and rework that and send it out again, that's certainly something that we can do and have eliminate any of those questions. Again, we're open to your direction. We just trying to
My
move projects forward as we can.
question, Mark, I have a question. Is this 170,000 already budgeted for? Is it coming out of the regular fund, or is this 6 penny money?
This is water fund money. It's actually the water fund. It was budgeted for work to be done on the north side of town to address specifically cast iron replacement projects. This one.
So is that coming out of the enterprise fund?
It is enterprise fund money, yes.
So Mark, my question is so this money is designated specifically for water projects. And if I hear you correctly, you're suggesting that your experience with Jackman Construction recently has been acceptable, and that the amount that is suggested here is you're recommending is a reasonable amount for the work that's being done based on your analysis. That's your recommendation, is that correct?
We have, as we have examined the bids, we have determined that the bid as submitted was met the minimum qualifications, did not have any technical difficulties or technical omissions, and met the standard for the requisite elements that needed to be submitted. The dollar amounts, as had been questioned, we do see that in bids, that some are lower than others, and sometimes we don't know why. Our estimate, we were actually not the low bidder. We hate being the low bidder ourselves. We were actually the high on this one. But it's not terribly outside of the range.
You know, I guess we can always, you know, if change orders are what we're worried about, that will come before us, and we can talk about that at that time. You know, I think right now, staff is probably noticing a council that's going to be a lot more cautious spending money going forward. And so with this money being money that is in the enterprise fund where it cannot be used for anything else, I might be willing to talk about this some more tonight.
I guess the question I have, along with Robert, was why it was like $50,000 difference. And on a change order, I guess this question would be with Galen. Can we fight change orders from the contractor after he submits them?
Council, yeah, and Councilman Murphy. Obviously, the council has to approve change orders that come before you, but when change orders come before you, it's not just ordinarily at the request of the contractor. It's ordinarily something that staff has reviewed and that staff has recommended. But obviously, the council is always in a position to be the final arbiter of, or the governing body, I should say more correctly, because the mayor's involved in this as well. But they're the final arbiter in terms of making decisions like that. But I think everyone knows that historically that the folks in charge of that sort of work at this stage have always come with documentation for whatever was going to be required. And we've had deductive change orders and we've had additive change orders. And to my best recollection, it's been a long time since we had any additive change order of any significance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, in view of this discussion, do we want to reconsider this motion? I think that's basically what this whole discussion is all about. If I'm not mistaken. So, Chris, did you have something or?
Unfortunately, Mary, you'll have to take that up at the next council meeting. What we'll need to do is pick that up on the next council meeting and additional action items, since the current one died for lack of a motion.
I guess Mayor, or is Chris speaking still?
Yes.
I can't hear him very well.
Basically said we need to let it die right there.
I can't
We'll
hear
bring
him
it
very
back up
well
in the
either.
next- We'll bring it back up in the next council meeting.
I mean, I'm
Okay,
willing
okay,
to
fine.
go ahead and give somebody a chance again, but that was my concern, but I hate to keep off projects
Okay.
if they're needed.
Your Honor,
Okay.
Your Honor.
Yes, Galen. Yes.
I don't see any reason why you couldn't, if someone wanted to make one, someone could make a motion to reconsider item E on the agenda. And if that receives a second and sufficient votes, then you could proceed to the reconsideration. The meeting's not over.
Mayor, this is Councilman
Okay.
Kilpack. This is Councilman Kilpack.
Yes. Yes, Gary.
I can just remember the real had in the past with the water lines and the cost it cost the city to hire an attorney and to go through all that. But in light of that, because this money is in the enterprise fund and it does not affect the general fund, I would go ahead and make a motion to bring council action item E back on the agenda for reconsideration. But saying that, I still have reservations. But that's the motion I would make.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to reconsider this, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, I believe it's unanimous to reconsider it, so the discussion is open. I suppose what we should do is start off with, and Galen, you can guide me in this if you think otherwise, but I suppose what we should do is entertain a motion, have a motion, and then we'll have a discussion on the motion.
Yes, sir.
Does that sound appropriate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion in view of the fact that we're reconsidering this. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Okay. Yes,
I would like to make a motion that we table this until the next meeting.
Second.
Second.
okay. Okay, so we have a motion by Councilman Berg, a second by Councilman Zimmerman to table this issue. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Who was that?
I think it was just an echo.
Okay. Okay, the motion carries to table that. We're going back to the city administrator's report. Mr. Clevenger.
Council, thank you. I'm gonna turn my video off because for some reason I'm glowing red. But,
You look good.
um,
Are you out getting some sun?
Exactly. I want to thank Zoom, the tech, everybody here trying to get this thing through. First time on this Zoom meeting for us. We will be meeting. We'll make putting together some things for us to change and see if we can make it go a little bit smoother the next time. This won't be our last one. Just want to let you know that we've implemented the staggered and adaptive schedules. I want to thank everyone that work, department heads and all the staff getting this done. We are open and in all areas. So, and the public does know we've been sharing that. We're going to continue to evaluate through this week to see how those efforts are going and any changes that may need to be made. Also wanted to thank some of the staff that's been taking a lot of extra time working on these COVID-19 matters. Everything from the EOC to the Wyoming Business Council, WAM, internally. There's a lot of, there's so much information and focus going on, and there's a lot to disseminate, but I think everyone's been doing a good job with that. As discussed earlier, our tax dollars were $668,000. It was less than last year. It is not less than it was the 2 previous years. We were going down. So we weren't as afraid of that number. I think it's the next number that we're going to be looking at to see next 2 numbers and how long it takes the economy to come back on that side. We are still, from our budget perspective, still above what we had forecast. We will get through the year most likely above forecast. And I think Tom's got something on there, but anyway, so we'll continue much. We're going to start getting back into the budgets with the finance committee and department heads next week, so we can outline everything there. For our small businesses out there, we've been working a lot of meetings, helping disseminate information through the Wyoming Business Council, the chambers, SEDC, URA Main Street, the banks, the Small Business Administration. The biggest thing we're seeing is that everyone's having difficulty getting through that. We ask the small businesses out there to be patient, but to work with your banks. Go to the Wyoming Business Council sites with all the applications. There is help out there. They've been able to get out about 75 billion of the first round of the first 350 billion. It looks like today they announced additional 200 million more, or 200 million more, sorry. And I think that we need to We'll continue to push that information out to them. Some of them are on, we know that have already closed, or depending on the type of business may have been forced to close. But that stuff's still available, and we'll continue to make that push out there. The last thing is just as we talk with our staff, we know this is a tough time, but we just ask everybody, please be patient, be humble. Use common sense and do something kind for someone each day. That's it.
Good final thought, Reed. Galen.
Mr. Mayor, I have
Any
no report.
Galen?
What's that, sir?
All right.
No,
Thank you, Galen.
I have no report tonight, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, I'm just looking at the screen. I'm going to start with Councilman Murphy. Do you have anything, Tom?
I do. I want to thank the fire department for what they're doing. And I also want to put down a rumor. The city is not taking over Castle Rock, even though we do have people staying at our station 24/7 from the ambulance. And I want to throw a shout out to one of the businesses in Rock Springs, Bauer Brothers car dealership donated a box of car seats for the fire department and the ambulance, so they can put those inside the vehicles to take care of any COVID-19 problems. That way we don't have to completely tear the trucks apart or whatever, sanitize them. We've actually got plastic seats we can put in there, or covers we can put on there and take them out and throw them away. And that's all for me.
Thank you, Councilman Murphy. Councilman Zimmerman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One interesting note that the county's been inundated this week and last week with people interested in the Red Desert. And, I never did put two and two together, but Wyoming is the only state so far that has no deaths in this COVID-19 thing that's going on. And we put two and two together at the county that this is just out of the ordinary, that people want to move out to the Red Desert off the grid. And so I think it's a case of people saying, hey, we want to get somewhere where there's not so much population. So I just thought it was an interesting fact, so I wanted to bring it up just to gnaw on. So thank you for your time. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Zimmerman. That is interesting. Councilman Byrd.
Mayor, I would just like to bring up the fact that, we as a community, we really need to be careful where we're getting our information from. Just because it was on Facebook does not mean it is true. We have resources out there like the COVID 311. Go to that for your information. Go to the Wyoming Department of Health and find out what their recommendations are. Don't read something off of Facebook that says you should gargle with mouthwash every 30 minutes in order to save yourself. Get your information from a reputable source. There's so much misinformation out there. There's people talking about, oh, I already had this back last fall. And that really scares me, because misinformation is what's going to make somebody make a misstep and get our community in trouble. That's all I have, Mayor.
Very good thoughts, Councilman Byrd. Thank you. Councilman Kilpack.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have just one or two things that I'd like to tell Reed and his staff. Thank you for the good work and being proactive with this. I think that is what has made things a lot better within our community, because we've been proactive and doing the right things. And I also would just like to make a comment in regard to the finances. Because of the COVID-19 and the issues that the community's having and the businesses, and we're asking them to be careful with their money, I think that's something that we ought to do too as well for the next couple, 3 months, because we just don't have a clue what's going to happen until we see some of these budgets, these revenues coming in. And that's all I have.
I think the mayor disappeared.
Yeah.
He did. He did.
Where'd he go?
That's Chris's fault.
I guess that's the end of the meeting.
I hope he's okay.
I guess, Gary, we'll see if he comes back. If not, being the council vice, you want to finish that out for us?
Sure. Okay, Councilman Mays, you haven't made your comments, have you?
No.
Okay, Councilman Mays.
Okay, well, I found it interesting, and I'm glad that we don't have an absolute mandate to shelter at home. I think our citizens are being very conscientious. Just, when I've gone to the store early, I've noticed everybody's, and they're putting a cloth mask on. They're standing there 6 feet away. I think everybody's being very conscientious. I talked to a rep today out of Connecticut, and it's just a whole different ball game back east, whole different ball game. And she was acting a little upset because why wasn't our governor forcing us to be shut in our homes? And I told her, I said, we only have 500,000 people in the whole state. And there was like a 10-second silence there. She said, oh my goodness, I had no clue that you didn't have that many people. And I said, well, we're still being careful. We still have guidelines out there, like you said, that the governor has put out, no more than 10 people, the social distancing, all those different things, and I think it's, we've got to check on our neighbors and our friends and be kind to each other. I'm getting a little bit worried as the summer approaches, because I know that there's events that are planned, and I know some of the groups that plan these events have planned them all year long. And I'm just, holding my breath, hoping there is a way that, some of these events can happen, and it's not all for naught for these people that have planned all year, or there's some way, we can social distance at some of these events to still put them on. That's what I'm thinking about right now too, because they've worked hard all year. And I'm just thinking about the rodeo, the quilt show, some of the things that'll come up, towards the beginning of summer. So, I don't know, has Reed clicked off already? I don't know if you're looking at that and seeing what's going on with those things, but I really feel sorry for those people trying to make plans for those things. I guess Reed must have clicked off. Okay, well, that's all I have.
Hey,
No,
thank you,
I-
Lisa.
I have to wait to get unmuted. Yes, we are looking at all those dates, everything from that rodeo through programs, leisure programs, swim lessons, the Flaming Gorge Days, Muley Fanatics, all that stuff are being looked at. We'll have making some recommendations here very soon on quite a few of those. A lot of it depends on the type of planning that needs to happen, the type of sponsors that may be part of that, how long it takes them to do it, being able to, looking at their dollars right now, is that the best use for it? All those things are going to be considered. I'll have to be considered if we can make something else work that's a smaller event, shortened or something like that. We know that the community be right for wanting something like that to happen once these restrictions get lifted.
Okay, I just know that the rodeo it's an entire year of planning, and they've already gone and gotten all their sponsors for the year, but hopefully things will turn around. Hopefully there's something good that'll happen and they'll shut this thing down. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Councilman Shatran?
I guess I'd just like to express my sincere gratitude for all the healthcare workers and emergency personnel, and then I guess everybody that's considered critical and going to work on a day. Basis. Just remind everybody to don't let your guard down.
Is that it, Mike?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. I don't know about you guys, but we definitely have, there's some mic problems and communication issues, and my screen has gone off a couple of different times and things like that. I'm quite sure we'll do better next time. And I just want to also add my voice to thank our city staff and the leadership, particularly Reed and his department heads, and all the excellent planning that they've done to keep our city staff safe while providing all the city services ongoing. And in that regard, Chris Meets, Larry Erdman, Bill Robinson, and Tom Jarvie are all on the incident command team that up until I think today it was announced that they're only going to meet twice a week now, if I got it correctly. But they were meeting daily, and they're just putting in an inordinate amount of time, as is Reed and his department heads that just came under this, came up with the policy that the city employees are now employing as of Friday, when it was initiated a Friday of last week. So they're doing an absolutely fantastic job, putting in a huge number of hours, having more Zoom conferences than you could ever imagine, which I do think is probably going to be part of our future. But kudos to all those folks for just doing an outstanding job. And I would like to just throw out a couple of phone numbers for people that might be listening out there. If you have any questions on medical questions and health, the best number to call is the community nursing. They're there to help you with any questions you have. Their phone number is 922-5390, community nursing. You can also call Castle Rock at 872-4500, and then the Emergency Operations Center at 212-5440. Those are all posted in many locations, and we'll put them up again as a result of this meeting in some other locations. But those are the best general numbers if you have any questions on this whole situation. And it's already been said over and over, but I think if you practice the 4 or 5 things of staying home when possible, observing the 6-foot social distancing, definitely stay home if you're sick. And a big one, because we're all aware that you have to go shopping, and quite often, while they've made some significant adjustments within the store and how many people they allow in, it's still one of the areas that is of concern to people. So absolutely, if possible, limit the shopping to one person and shop for the week. Make sure you don't have to go back. That's what we've been practicing, and make sure you clean your stuff when you get home. If you want to maximize the potential to minimize any infection. And the only other thing I'd like to say is some good news in terms of nothing to do with the COVID for a change, but we are in the middle of a census, and Green River is second in the state for the most people that have returned their census as a city. So that's good news, and we need to continue to get the word out, because the money that results that is returned from the federal government on many, many programs, as we all know, programs for seniors, programs for youth and funding in the schools. It comes many, many federal highway programs. It comes to us through the census, and it's going to be more important than ever. So I encourage everybody that you know to return those census, and it's just very, very important. And with that, I just want to reassure all the citizens out there, we'll get through this. We're working hard as a city to do it. The county Emergency Operations Center is doing a fantastic job, and so hang in there. We'll prevail. Anything else, anybody? Okay, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Who was it? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you.